many of us might be familiar with the term pointing out instructions, where I think, which I don't know much about, but I think it refers to where, especially in the Nyingma tradition, a teacher points out the nature of the mind to the disciple. And from there on, a very deep practice can develop. Very subtle, being able to notice the nature of the mind. That's not where I am, and that's not the pointing out instructions that my teacher gives me either. Recently, I was going on a walk with Venerable, and in some context, she complimented someone. And then a few moments later, she asked, "Did that make you jealous?" And I said, "Yes." And it was interesting to hear the compliment that she paid, and then notice that I tightened slightly, and that it was perceptible. But the comment that followed was really what struck me. It's like, oh, how interesting. I say something kind about someone, and you create negative karma. It's like, that's something to sit with. And I worked on jealousy for a long time. Being able to see it clearly. There's other afflictions that I can't see so clearly, but jealousy in my mind, I'm fairly good at being like, oh, you're there. And when I first came to the Abbey, it was very painful and it demanded my attention. And I continue to work on it. And it comes up very quickly in the sense of, someone else gets complimented and I get jealous. And why? And I think is the function of the self-centered thought that's wanting to relate everything back to myself. But it's also about like a fixed pie notion that somehow if someone else's qualities are being praised, it means I interpret that as meaning that I have a lack. Which is ridiculous. It's like I'm not in that picture, nor do I need to be, but somehow I'm inserting myself in there because I'm so important. And then I make myself miserable. And how is it that someone else's good fortune detracts from my own in some way? It makes no sense, but at the moment, it's so real where, it flares up and I tighten. It's like, oh, I'm not complimented that way. And the contrast of that mind with the bodhicitta intention is just so stark. This small mind that's just relating everything that happens, good or bad, back to myself and seeing a lack or an advantage, as opposed to a mind that is looking out at others as beings to benefit and help and wanting them to grow their good qualities and wanting them to be praised by the 3,000 worlds for their good qualities and wanting them to have the qualities that can lead all beings to awakening. It's just so juxtaposed. And looking at the precepts of mind training, there's one that says, transform everything into the great vehicle path. And in the mind training, like Rays of the Sun and also Venerable Children's commentary to that, it says, take an earnest interest in the enlightenment of others. And that's the explanation that followed from that was that it's not, oh, how lovely it would be if that person was enlightened, but clean that toilet first. Or it'd be so amazing if that person was enlightened, but do what I want first. Give me what I want, or do this function, or do your chores on time so that I don't have to do it for you, or don't be so angry, be agreeable. That's not the first thing. The first thing in the mind is to, see others' potential and be like, may you attain awakening, and may you be free of your suffering, and may I take it upon myself to help you do that. But the emphasis being on the other more than the self. Sometimes I think with the way the refuge in bodhicitta verse that we recite regularly is phrased, it's like, I will attain awakening for the welfare of others. But in terms of the aspirations, like for the welfare of others, I will attain awakening. That emphasis sometimes I can see that in my own mind I get stuck upon, where it's like, I will attain awakening. I want to end my own suffering. It's more about me. And then, oh yes, for everyone else as well, good, great. It's the other way around. It's, moved by great compassion. We want to work for the welfare of others, and how can we do that? I can't do it in my current state, so therefore I will attain awakening. And what I found particularly interesting in Lam Kapel's mind training, like Rays of the Sun, was this cause and effect order that he gave to a prayer that we're familiar with in terms of, it comes up in some of the meditation texts that we do about, may any being who ever sees, hears, touches, remembers, or talks to me be freed in that instant and never experience suffering ever again and attain enlightenment. And he quotes from the birth stories. That's the result that we want to happen. We want people to be able to see us and that to happen. But before that, he's quoting from the Jatakamala, the birth story, saying, whether seeing, hearing, remembering, meeting, or talking to them, always do what will be beneficial for sentient beings and will bring them peace. And in Venerable Chödrön's explanation of this, it's like, this is what we need to do before any sentient being is going to look at us and be freed in an instant, or to look at us and take inspiration. If we're so inwardly turned to our own benefit, then why would others look at us and take inspiration or be inspired to practice if we're not setting an example or embodying what they can take inspiration for? Being an embodiment of always having a hand reaching out to help, or embodying ethical conduct, generosity, the 6 parameters that we have just received teachings on. So it's just a good reminder of the attitude that I need to have in my mind, that's wanting to reach out and help, that's looking outwards, not just focused on my own benefit, and is really seeing others' potential and good qualities and rejoicing in it, not perceiving my own lack in relation to them. And as Venerable Nawang reminded us this morning of something that Geshe-la said recently in terms of, we've been learning about these 6 parameters and the 10 bhumis that we'll be traversing along eventually, and to see that they are future moments in our own continuum. To see that that's where we're going and that's where we're heading, but also to turn that awareness to others, to see that these are states in the future moments of the continuums of others. And personally, I think if I could relate to others, seeing them in that framework of their own potential in terms of what they will become, then there's no place for jealousy, because I'm wishing them to have amazing qualities and rejoicing in that. And there's just no space for an afflicted mind there. So.